Guess who's back?
Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be discussing the latest Dallas Cowboys news, which there's a lot this week. But before we get started, please subscribe to the channel Dos and Tres NFL on YouTube. We produce NFL and Dallas Cowboys content specifically, so if you're into that, leave us a comment at the end of this video and subscribe to the channel. So of course the biggest news is kind of tying into what our last video was. We left it with a question that we both had, I guess, differing opinions on. But the Cowboys did fire Mike Nolan, and within the same week, hired Dan Quinn as the new defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. Quick thoughts on Dan Quinn, or just overall in the position, because we were all kind of, wondering, okay, which direction are they going to go? RJ, your suggestion from last week was Wade Phillips, which obviously didn't happen. But I think overall for me, whoever they were going to hire, one, it wasn't going to be exciting to us. No coordinator ever is going to be exciting. Head coach is exciting.
Unless you're coming from college or something.
Yeah, because any coordinator that you're going to hire is either going to be a brand new guy that you're elevating, a young guy that nobody's ever heard of, or two, he's a guy who's already been fired and hired at multiple places and is trying to get his career back on track. So what are you looking for that does get you excited about a guy like Dan Quinn? For me, it doesn't even have anything to do with his defense. It has more to do with his leadership.
Yes.
Because that's what we talked about last time, is this defense has no leaders. They haven't had a leader since who was the last? Jeremy Mincy, the 2016 or 2014 defense, maybe you could say.
Yeah.
Sean Lee, but he's not on the field, so I don't think he feels like he has the authority behind it anymore, because he's not the on-field leader. So how is he going to be the overall leader? But Dan Quinn brings that leadership to a defense that sorely needs it. And two, kind of tying into that, Dan Quinn should have been fired last year, but his players came back and played for him at the end of last season, going on a winning streak. They got him his job back, and they all fought for him. Julio Jones, the leader of the Falcons, basically one of their best players, an all-time Falcon, wanted him back. So if players really love a coach like that, well then, hey, there's got to be something behind it. So that's what excites me about Dan Quinn. RJ, what kind of stuck out to you about him being hired?
Well, he did bring up that Legion of Boom from the very beginning and stuff. And the main thing that Richard Sherman said in his interview, he has a show, I think, every week, is that players will play for him. The main thing I saw that I liked is that they said he's going to mix it up a bit as far as the football thing goes. But as far as like outside the football thing goes, leadership, getting players to play for him, and like you said, there hadn't been a leader. There really wasn't a leader on this defense as far as I feel like accountability and communication goes. And I really feel like that's his forefront as far as getting players to gel together and that are going to communicate and play. Because when you have a guy like Jalen saying, well, this is too complicated and this, and then no accountability and stuff as far as, I guess, what's going on. There's just things when defensive players were asked questions, specifically Jalen, he's a guy this year we're going to pick on because he had a horrible year. Stuff like that. It reeks lack of communication within the room, in the defensive room, and that's something that desperately needs to be fixed.
And I think Jalen, and really just the paid guys on your defense, are a big part of a reason why Quinn was hired. Getting to the defensive part, this is going to be a revert back to the Rod Marinelli, Chris Richard type defense. This is going to be a base 4-3 team. They're going to play cover 3, and traditionally, you want to get your pressure with 4 guys and you don't blitz. Now, hopefully, he has a little more blitzes and they have a little less predictable blitzes, and hopefully disguising coverages, because that's what really got them into trouble. I mean, with Richard and Marinelli, they were going to go out there in their cover 3, and it was going to be base, and they wanted their guys to win. Almost kind of like the Jason Garrett mentality. We're going to go out there and win with our guys, whatever, But with Dan Quinn, to get this job, whoever came in had to have a concrete plan of how am I going to get DeMarcus Lawrence and how am I going to get Jalen Smith back to their 2018 versions, because they haven't been their 2018. They haven't had their 2018 performances since then. DeMarcus Lawrence is a great player. Yes, he's really good in the run, but the sack numbers aren't there. He generates a lot of pressures, but he's not getting home. So figuring out ways to get him home more often, and then getting Jalen Smith to somewhat usable back at linebacker again, run and chase linebacker like he was in 2018, a Pro Bowl worthy here that year, because we can talk about cutting and all that, but realistically, the only way to cut him in it for it to make sense financially is going to benefit you long term, but not short term, because you're going to cut him as a post June 1st. But by June 1st, all of the roster decisions have already been made. There's not going to be anybody out there to go and get. It's not going to benefit you this season. So, in reality, to have a body and have a guy, Jalen's probably going to be on this team this season again. And Dan Quinn getting hired, I think, kind of reinforces that for me.
And as far as his type of defense goes, from what I've seen and read, that he's not as base. He mixes more things up as far as coverage-wise goes and stuff. And 4-3 and one gap is basically the best way to play football, because it's react and then read. What these guys were having to do was read and then react, and I feel like that bothered them a lot this past season, where it's what's my keys, what's going on and everything, and then okay, what just happened, okay, now let's go, instead of, like I said, the one gap defense that you're able to just kind of not play free, but everybody has their responsibility, and that's what you're going to do. You already know what you're going to do.
And it's hard whenever you've been drafting for a 4-3 in one way, going all the way back to Monty Kiffin, 10 plus seasons drafting a certain way and a certain defense, and then in 1 year and on a COVID year expecting these guys to switch, which is why my argument for Mike Nolan was it was one season, but whenever they went in, they said COVID's not going to be an excuse. So they're going to go back to what they're comfortable with, and they're going to look at it in the short term where, hey, these are the players that we have, these are the players that we've been drafting for, let's go back to something they know to try and make it work, because there is a window there. I think this is also a reinforcement of the fact that they're going to get Dak's deal done. I mean, they're looking at this as the offense is good to go. We gotta fix this defense.
We gotta get someone in here that's, first of all, has the culture, is experienced. You can knock him on his blunders as far as late game, but obviously that's a head coach. A head coach has a lot more responsibility when he's not just solely focused on the defensive side of the ball. But Dan Quinn is a guy that you would like to have coaching your guys up on the defense side of the ball. As far as scheme wise goes, we'll see. Hopefully things are more mixed up. I really, really hope for that. I don't want that to happen, where you saw a lot of young quarterbacks were able to have good games against Dallas because they didn't have the exact personnel that you would love to have to run the cover 1 and cover 3 base, and that's why, because it was simple and it was easy for them to attack straight from the get-go, and offenses were able to make good game plans, just good simple game plans against us, and that's why you saw guys like Trubisky, Driscoll, Darnold have good games against Dallas.
Because we didn't have elite personnel, so you got to disguise it somehow. Just like on offense, where we asked them to make easy plays, and they didn't have easy plays for the defense. They had to go out and win.
And it'll be what'll be interesting is who he decides, who he would like to fight for Dallas to keep, because there's going to be a lot of turnover. So it's going to be interesting to see out of the guys like Cheeto, Xavier, Jordan, who he would like to have back. Again, the Atlanta last year, this past the draft, they took AJ Terrell, which a lot of people didn't have. He's going to prioritize cornerback and that type of position. It'll be interesting to see if he does want those guys back, or who he wants back, and who he's going to advocate for and fight for. That's what I'm very interested in, is to see who he wants back and how it's going to shape up from there. Because honestly, if it really helps if they were to sign Cheeto back, because then I feel like Donovan Wilson is starting caliber, and if you're really going to bring Jalen back and hopefully things can mesh, then listen, the defense looks pretty bad on paper and stuff. It got better towards the end of the year. You start doing that, and you're not too out of the, okay, we just need to be ranked with this offense. You just kind of need to be ranked anywhere between 15 and 20.
Yeah.
You don't have to be world beaters. You just have to be consistent and not give up the big plays, and
where the offense isn't having to score every time they touch the football.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
You know, get me 4 stops in a game. You know, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, give me some stops because damn, they couldn't stop anybody. Don't allow 9 yards every carry.
Yeah.
You know, that's big.
That was a big one. Yeah.
I mean, that was bad. But a couple of things going into the draft, and player acquisition part of Dan Quinn's hire. Whenever, like RJ was talking about AJ Terrell, they did not. Other teams in the NFL did not value him as highly as the Falcons did, and all indications were that Terrell was obviously he was higher than CeeDee Lamb on their board, and he was very, very high overall for them as far as the corners go. He might have been their second-ranked corner overall. Who knows? He could have been their first because he had those traits that they look for in that press 4-3, the length, the speed, just his body style and everything that he brings, and then the defense that he came from at Clemson, they valued him very highly. So that tells me that just like Marinelli, he's going to be looking for specific players, which is fine. What I don't want to happen is whenever he's coming into the draft room like Marinelli would constantly do, and he's influencing the picks.
Over BPA.
Yeah, because we've gone past some key players that could have helped us, you know, in these past seasons for guys like Tristan Hill or Taco Charlton. And Tristan Hill could end up being, you know, a good valuable part of the defense, but obviously Taco was not the answer. And then on the other hand, if we start plugging holes with guys that could possibly come back and they're already here, that still leaves a glaring hole at a position which I hope Dan Quinn's hiring is going to put value in that they haven't had in the 20 plus years since Darren Woodson, or you could say maybe Roy Williams. He was more of a strong safety, but that is the free safety position. The Cowboys have passed up guys like Juan Thornhill, Taylor Rapp. I mean, last year Grant Delpit. Obviously, they got Trevon Diggs.
And when you look at guys like that, though, too, those I don't want him, like you said, getting into the war room and then overvaluing a guy either, because he did take a guy like Keanu in the first round when he was in with Atlanta. But those guys are, I'm not going to say easily found, but those guys that provide that type of productivity, unless it's a Jalen Ramsey, can be taken in the later rounds.
But Keanu was a strong safety. That's the thing. A free safety. I'm going to put the value of a free safety over a strong safety.
Yeah, especially in a cover 3 and a cover 1 defense. Yeah.
But another thing, I mean, this is more draft stuff, but there's not really a true, you know, there's not a first round safety in this class period. So I don't think that'll be an issue for the Cowboys in the first round. But once we get into the later rounds, I mean, I think they're going to have to acquire a player to play free safety for them. Period.
Real quick, just touch on it. It's a big free agent market of free safety this year,
and that's going to be hard with not knowing the cap number right now. But I mean, there are names out there, and obviously Earl. I mean, that's going to be another guy that comes up because there's ties there. But I don't want to get too much into it. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to be a fit. But there are names out there like an Earl Thomas. There's other guys out there. And then obviously you're going to possibly have to draft somebody, because if you start plugging holes, like I said, you could. Donovan Wilson, he's going to be a guy, but I think he's more of a strong safety in this defense versus a free.
What I'm saying, he's a starter. He's a starter
for sure. Another little note. Somebody that the Cowboys also interviewed for defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr. They were very impressed with him. Once Dan Quinn was hired, then he joined on as a secondary/defensive backs coach. So he's also being added to this team. He's got a lengthy history with Dan Quinn. In fact, he was coaching with the Falcons last year. And if you want to point at the Falcons defense, yes, they were very, very bad. But this is like a fresh start. And if you're going to get back to the 4-3, the Cowboys, like we've already said, the players are more geared and have learned that defense a lot more than what they were learning last year with Mike Nolan.
And I think that'll help. Tristan did play better coming along his second year. I think that'll help him going back to the ways that obviously the coach who drafted him played that type of front. And then I think Gallimore, that fits Gallimore a lot. Like he came on really good at the end of the year. So I think there is a lot of concern and worry on the defensive side of the ball as far as going to the offseason. With Quinn, I feel like that shores it up a bit more. And then if he's able to advocate and fight for some guys to come back, then I don't think there's as much worry as you would see on the paper coming from this year's defensive stat lines as far as what they gave up.
So I think overall, I mean, this isn't exciting. It's not going to be exciting. You're not going to know anything until we see it on paper. But as far as comfortability-wise goes and leadership-wise goes, this should be much better for the players and a much more structured defense for them.
Yes, exciting hires and really press conference hires come from teams that are 1-15, 2-14. That this isn't it. There's a window here. This offense can absolutely stay with the best of them and anybody. So you need somebody in here that has done it before, cultured, brings everything you'd want as far as getting the best out of your players, and that's what they did. So no, it's not exciting, but it's gonna hopefully fortify this team into being consistent on both sides of the ball.
And obviously your goal is a Super Bowl, and this guy, he led the #1 defense 2 years back to back in the Seahawks, and then he led his team, the Falcons, to what should have been a Super Bowl win against the Patriots. So he's got recent history being in the biggest games, and I mean the Cowboys need that, and that's the goal for them every year, obviously with every team, but the expectations are much higher for Dallas, obviously.
You know who I'd like them to bring? Dante Fowler.
Man, Dante Fowler, he just always seems like a guy who's there for the check to me. But I mean, they could.
But he, as a rotational guy that makes big plays because he played with them. Yeah.
He could. Yeah. I mean, will they be able to afford him though? That's a whole other discussion. I mean, there's going to be a lot of players that we want just like every year, but are they going to be able to bring them in? I don't know. Once that cap number comes out, I mean, stories are going to be have shifted, and I don't know. I hope the cap stays flat, but
with as much as what didn't go on last season because of COVID, there'll be plenty of news because of what didn't go on this off season coming around, because a lot of financial and obviously what we were just saying and how things are going to be handled, training camp and everything and mini camp and stuff like that, and hopefully going into the season we'll have a better picture, and hopefully the main thing that needs to happen those first is Dak gets signed, and that'll lay out everything else.
Yep. All right, I think that about covers it. We appreciate you watching. Again, if you like Dallas Cowboys or NFL content, please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yo, I ain't here for the money, I ain't